For later on in the book of Job, in chapters 29 and 30, we hear Job speaking of things as they used to be and as they now are. He's thinking about how in days past God took care of him, that he felt the friendship of God in his home. He remembers when all of his children were around and his life was prospering, and the elders of the city honored him, and the young man of the city stepped aside and reverenced him when he walked by. Even the highest officials in this city stood up in respect for Job. But that was then, and this is now. Now the young men make fun of him. I am a joke to them, he writes. They spit in my face. They lay traps for my path. They come at me from all directions. He says, I live in terror with no one to help. Depression haunts my days. I cry to God, but I get no answers. My voice of joy and gladness is turned into mourning. This is what's playing on the track of Job's mind as he sits outside the city. And there's still been no indication that God intends to explain to Job what he's doing. To Job, this experience is totally void of meaning. One writer says, few things are harder to bear than meaningless suffering. If we could see some reason for what we have to go through, we could more easily endure it. But pointless trouble is corrosive to our souls. Now, there are many who have wondered how such a sweeping change could come over Job from chapter 2 to chapter 3. From radical saintliness in chapter 2 to unseemly despair in chapter 3. But by this stage, it should be clear that an entirely new trial has now overtaken Job. The trial of depression, of deep mental spiritual trauma, the terrible disasters of the first chapter. Job managed to weather, and he even maintained his piety in the process. But now the battlefront has shifted from the outside to the inside. Now it is Job's inner psychic life, his very soul, that is under direct satanic attack. In the words of Proverbs 18:14, a man's spirit sustains him in sickness, but a crushed spirit who can bear? And so Job begins to lament in the 3rd chapter. Sitting there on the ash heap outside of the city, for the first time he really begins to